Here's a story which hasn't been forgotten. Nixon resigns. Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein spent 2 laborious years pursuing the Watergate investigation. It was an iconic investigation which culminated in the indictment of 40 US government officials, the resignation of a president, the shocking of a nation, and the setting of a high watermark for investigative journalism. Woodward and Bernstein came up against many objections and many obstacles along the way. But their newspaper, the Washington Post, thought that the investigation was important, and it supported them. In today's era of super speedy news production, immediate reaction, limited budgets, who's going to back this sort of investigation in the future? Which journalist is going to be given the time and the space to work on a story so complex and so difficult? And if we're not going to get stories like this anymore, what is the future for news journalism? Here's another headline, and a little bit of text. Earthquake. 3.7 quake strikes near Peru, California. A shallow magnitude 3.7 earthquake was reported Sunday evening, 7 miles from Peru, according to the US Geological Survey. The tremor occurred at 9:18 p.m. Pacific time at a depth of 8.7 miles. There's something very strange about this story. I'll give you a clue. It was written in less than a second. It wasn't written by an extremely efficient journalist. It was written by a robot, or rather, an algorithm. The LA Times uses a piece of software called QuakeBot. As soon as the US Geological Survey says that there's something going on, some sort of activity, it feeds it directly into a template, and within 3 minutes of an earthquake starting, there can be a full story about it online. This sort of thing is happening more and more. Associated Press is going to start using software called Wordsmith to automatically produce 4,000 quarterly financial reports. Now, if you're an optimist, you might say, brilliant. Journalists will be freed from the menial tasks of reporting. They'll be given time and space to go and find the real stories and get stuck into them. If you're a pessimist, you might say, when has automation ever not led to job losses? Here's my view. 10 years from now, there won't be a single printed newspaper left in the developed world. Many major news organizations will have closed. Robo-journalism and news scraped from social media websites will be delivered to you according to your digital preferences, instantly and for free. News organizations which do survive will continue to write preemptive news stories, as with the Amanda Knox case, and 99 times out of 100, they will get away with it. There will be a constant, unremitting downward pressure on quality. Most people won't even notice. Most people will be happy enough. They won't think about what has been lost. But some people will have an appetite for a different sort of journalism. A journalism which values journalists, which puts them at the heart of stories, which gives them the time to do what they do best, which follows up on stories after everybody else has moved on, which values perspective and hindsight over immediate knee-jerk reaction, which doesn't see journalistic content as just something to fill in the spaces between advertising pages or to subtly sell you something that you don't need, which isn't filled with rewritten press releases, which brings you stories that you didn't know you wanted to read, but which nonetheless change your worldview. And a journalism which, most importantly of all, isn't trying to beat Twitter or whatever social media we have in 10 years to stories, because it knows that being right is much more important than being first. We call it slow journalism. Like the slow food and slow travel movements, it's about taking your time to do something of quality. Fast journalism goes into Soma for 4 days and tells us minute by minute exactly what's happening, and then it leaves. Slow journalism returns a few months later. It spends time with the community, gets to know their stories. It finds out, for example, that miners have been turned against one another by politicians playing games with compensation payments. It delivers something nourishing and of depth and of interest. If this sounds interesting to you, if you would like something with a bit more quality, intelligence, inspiration, something that provides an antidote to the hyper speed of today's digital news production, then I would urge you to support slow journalism wherever you see it and in its many different forms. Because that, my friends, that is the news journalism that we all deserve. Gracias.